Well, hello. I want to start this episode by asking you a question. How do you feel about the holidays? The season is in full swing. It has been for a couple of weeks now. Do you love it? Do you feel like you should love it? Or is it a really hard time of year for you? My name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I'm a relationship expert, the founder of Boundary Bootcamp and the Real Love Revolution, which is coming in April of 2018. So, this episode is all about holiday blues. How can you handle the holiday blues? And I have advice, and you might be surprised at what I'm going to say about it. There are many reasons why people feel depressed during this time of year. Sometimes the holidays, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever it is, can really put a microscope on perhaps what you haven't created in your life or what you don't have. If you wanted to have a family, but that hasn't happened for you, or maybe it hasn't happened yet, or if you have strained family relationships, if you are cut off from family members, all of these things can create a real painful holiday season. I also think that there's an expectation that if you're not happy around the holidays, that something is wrong with you, that you're a Grinch or that you're just moody, rather than really giving the weight to the fact that there are reasons why people feel this way around the holidays. So let's talk about some other causation factors and then some things that maybe you can do. So, what are the things that really contribute to this? Stress is one of them. Overeating, overdrinking is another one of them, right? I talked in a recent episode about seasonal affective disorder, that there are people who are really profoundly impacted in the way of getting winter depression, they call it. If you live in the Northeast or somewhere where there's a much shorter amount of daylight, this can really impact you. So if you haven't seen that, go look at that episode if you feel like this actually applies to you. So that's another one. The expectations is a big one, right? What if you have unrealistic expectations? You think it's going to be great. You think it's going to be so much fun, but you feel disappointed year after year. What about financial pressure to buy a lot of gifts? Maybe you can't afford to do that this year. So how do you have a proactive holiday boundary plan, which I did another episode on, so you can go look for that if you need help in that area. Excessive commitments, right? Being committed to do too much. And sometimes people feel really sad around the holidays if you've had significant losses, either in that year, if someone has passed away, or if someone passed away during the holiday season. My father died during November, right before Thanksgiving. And for a few years after his death, I felt that sense of like doom or dread sort of coming over me during that period of time. And of course, I was in therapy, and so I was able to talk about that. As soon as it starts getting cold and the leaves started falling off the trees, it would remind me of my father's untimely passing, because he was pretty young when he died. He was 61, and he died of a heart attack, so he died very suddenly. So it was like it took time for me to process that and to disconnect Thanksgiving with my father's death. So maybe it took about 2 years before I put my own proactive boundary plan in place to make it a very grateful Thanksgiving for all of the things I did get from my father while he was on earth and the things that I learned from him. And I created a ritual because I didn't want to be left feeling that way every single Thanksgiving. I was only in my early 30s at the time. So I know from many of my clients, I had one client whose parents got divorced in December. And so that always really put a damper on the holiday for her. But she didn't even realize that there was this anniversary date that was impacting. So I want you to look for anniversary dates. If you do feel sad around the holidays, see if you can connect it to something that's happened in the past. So that's one thing that you can do. Don't overschedule yourself. That's another thing that you can do. And the biggest tip that I can give you if the holidays in the past and historically have made you sad and make you sad is to not fight the feeling. If you're sad, if you're genuinely sad, there's a part of me that feels like acceptance and surrendering to the feeling is helpful, because making yourself wrong for the feeling doesn't make you feel better, right? Making yourself wrong for the feeling just makes you feel judged and worse. So there are many things, if you're Christian, and you don't even have to be Christian to go to one of these services, because there's many Unitarian um, places where you don't have to have any affiliation, where you can go, where they have what is called Blue Christmas services. So they're very beautiful. I've been to many of them where there's still music, but there isn't that forced sense of being jovial, right? There's actually an acknowledgement that people who go to a blue service are feeling blue, and they want to feel understood and empathized with, not judged, not wrong. So you can find that in your area just by Googling Blue Holiday Services. And there's many things online as well. I will encourage you, though, to get support, because you need support. And even if it's just online, that's okay. But isolating, which can be very, very tempting when you're feeling this way, to just stay home and shut the world out, do nothing, overdrink, overwatch Netflix, whatever it may be, overeat, that will really lead to you feeling more depressed. So I don't say make your feelings of sadness wrong, but I do say get some support so that it's not so lonely in that experience. Now, back to the seasonal affective disorder, because this is something that can impact people, as I was saying. Now, that is biochemical, right? That's physiological in your body. If you have a lack of vitamin D, lack of daylight, lack of sun exposure. So that's something to really look into if you find that every winter you gain 10 pounds, have no motivation, feel depressed, feel anxious. Those are all signs and symptoms of seasonal affective disorder, which you can check out the other episode on that. But it's something that's real, and it's a lot of times you'll have doctors saying, or people saying, no, that's just the way she is, or that's just the way he is, rather than giving it the credit that it deserves, because it really is called winter depression for a reason. But there's something that you can do. So the two things to think about for that is getting your vitamin D levels checked, very simple blood test, and there are lamps that mimic the rays of the sun minus the dangerous rays that can actually create more dopamine in your mind. So what I want you to do, and what I hope that this episode will do for you, is inspire you to honor the way that you feel, rather than sort of muscling through the holidays, because I find that it's really easy to muscle through the holidays and feel like you have to do it. You have to do what you've always done. And the truth is, you really don't. I think it's perfectly appropriate to be very discerning about what invitations you accept during this time of year. And if it is depressing for you, perhaps, and you can afford to go away, think of going somewhere warm over the holidays. I was just talking to a friend who has grown children, and she said, we've told them that we're going to be away for the 2 weeks of Christmas and New Year's, and we'll celebrate with them when we get back, doing what they really want to do. And part of it is that her husband actually suffers from seasonal affective disorder and is already feeling very blue. And it's only, it's the beginning of December pretty much, or the middle of December. So, make a plan that actually works for where you are in your life. And another thought that I have is to donate your time. Nothing will get you out of your head faster than making a difference in someone else's life. And if you're feeling blue, sometimes that can be difficult to motivate yourself. But I really want to encourage you to do it because nothing can make you feel better than volunteering. You know, there's a volunteer thing where I was just reading about something where this 78-year-old man goes into the nurseries with the babies that are born with fetal alcohol syndrome and addicted to crack, and he holds the babies and rocks the babies, and he's been doing it for 15 years, adding true value to those little infants who may never know he did it, may never know it even happened. But in the interview, he was saying how satisfying it is for him to feel like he's made a difference doing something that's selfless. So I encourage you, there's so many places for you to look online to find where does someone need help. And you know what? You don't have to go any further than your own community. There's probably an elderly person you know right now who could use your help. And just doing something kind will get you out of those feelings of depression, or at least it adds something. Because really donating your time doing something good, that has its own reward, your chemical reward in your brain. And also being connected to other people. You know, it doesn't have to be your family if that's toxic for you and that's part of why this time of year feels depressing to you. It really doesn't. But the human connection is so incredibly important. So I really want to inspire you to think about what can you do that would give you that human connection where you're adding value. But please don't make yourself wrong. I would love to hear from you. If you have thoughts, if you have questions, if you have any stories, if you want to share anything about your own blue holiday season experience. And I would love it if you would share with me anything that worked for you, anything that helped, anything that actually made you feel better. Because if it made you feel better, it could perhaps make everyone else or someone else in our tribe feel better as well. So if you liked this episode on the holiday blues, please share it on social media. Anywhere you are, just hit share. I hope you have an amazing week doing something good for you. And as always, take care of you.